Dr. Ziramoth arrived on the Harmony's edge 3 days after Commander Veltar sent his emergency message to the Confederation Science Council. She was the most famous xenobiologist in known space, a tall woman with silver skin and bright purple eyes that seemed to glow when she was excited. Right now, those eyes were glowing very brightly. "Show me everything," she said the moment she stepped off her transport ship. She had traveled for 3 days without stopping, using the fastest ship the Science Council could provide. The discovery was too important to wait. Commander Veltar led her to the observation deck where his team had set up their research station. Screens covered every wall showing data about the mysterious planet. Dr. Ziramoth studied each display carefully, her 4-fingered hands moving quickly as she took notes on her personal computer. "Incredible," she whispered as she looked at the planet's specifications. "The gravity alone should crush most carbon-based life forms. And this atmosphere, it would dissolve our ship's hull in hours." Behind Dr. Ziramoth came 11 other scientists, each representing a different species from across the Confederation. There was Dr. Keth Mora, a rock-like being from the mineral worlds who specialized in extreme geology. Dr. Vishatai was a water breather who understood ocean environments better than anyone. Each scientist brought knowledge that might help them understand how life could exist in such impossible conditions. The team worked for days, analyzing every piece of data the ship's sensors could gather. They studied the radio signals, the atmospheric readings, and the electromagnetic patterns coming from the planet. Everything they learned made the situation more confusing. "Look at this," said Dr. Yenthara, a spider-like creature with 8 arms who was excellent at analyzing communication patterns. "These radio signals aren't just random. They're organized like a complex society. I'm detecting what appears to be entertainment broadcasts, news programs, and educational content." Dr. Ziramoth floated over to look at the data. Her species could control gravity around their bodies, which let them move in any direction they wanted. "It was very useful in space. That means they have leisure time," she said thoughtfully. "Beings who are struggling just to survive don't create entertainment. These people aren't just living on this world, they're comfortable there." This was perhaps the most shocking discovery yet. Every other species in the galaxy had to work very hard to survive on even the most hospitable planets. They needed technology, medicine, and careful planning just to live normal lives. But these mysterious beings seemed to treat their deadly world like a peaceful garden. Dr. Kethemora was studying the geological data. His rocky body was perfectly suited for understanding planetary structures. "The surface is extremely active," he reported. "Constant volcanic activity, frequent earthquakes, and massive storms that would destroy most cities. Yet their settlements appear to be built directly on top of the most geologically unstable areas. Maybe they don't understand the danger," suggested Dr. Vishatai, though she didn't sound convinced. "No," Dr. Ziramoth replied, studying the settlement patterns. "Look at how their cities are designed. They're clearly built to work with the planet's dangerous features, not despite them. See how this city channels the lava flows to provide power? And this settlement uses the acid storms for some kind of chemical processing." The team spent another week developing specialized equipment that would let them approach the planet safely. They designed environmental suits that could protect them from the crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, and dangerous radiation. Each suit cost more than a small starship and could only operate for a few hours before the power ran out. "Even with all this protection," Dr. Ziramoth explained to Commander Veltar, "we can only survive on the surface for 3 hours maximum. After that, our suits will fail and we'll die." Commander Veltar nodded grimly. "What about the beings down there? Any theories about what they might be?" Dr. Ziramoth had been thinking about this question for days. "Honestly, I don't know. They could be silicon-based life forms, though the radio signals suggest carbon-based biology. They might be energy beings who don't have physical bodies, or what?" Veltar asked. "Or there's something completely new, something we've never seen before." As they prepared for contact, the team continued intercepting radio transmissions from the planet. The translation computers worked day and night, trying to understand the language. It was complex but followed logical patterns that suggested high intelligence. Dr. Yenthara made an important breakthrough on the 8th day. "I've decoded some basic mathematical concepts," she announced to the team. "Their number systems are similar to ours, and they seem to understand advanced physics and chemistry." "What kind of physics?" Dr. Ziramoth asked. "Very advanced. They're discussing concepts that our best scientists are just beginning to understand. But here's the strange part. They talk about these complex ideas like they're common knowledge. Like every person on their planet understands advanced science. This added another mystery to their growing list. Not only were these beings surviving on an impossible world, they were also apparently much more scientifically advanced than the Confederation had expected. Dr. Keth Mora discovered something even more puzzling. "I've been analyzing their construction materials," he said. "They're not using any exotic elements or advanced alloys. Their buildings are made from basic materials that exist on most planets. Somehow they've figured out how to make simple materials, incredibly strong and resistant to damage." The team also noticed that the beings seemed to communicate with each other across vast distances without any obvious technology. Dr. Vishatai detected energy patterns that might be some kind of biological communication system. "It's like they're naturally connected to each other," she reported. "I've never seen anything like it in any known species." After 2 weeks of preparation, Dr. Zeromoth announced that they were ready to attempt first contact. The team had built a heavily armored shuttle that could survive in the planet's atmosphere for a short time. It was packed with sensors, communication equipment, and enough environmental suits for a small contact team. "I want to make one thing clear," Dr. Zeromoth told the assembled team. "We're not going down there as conquerors or even as equals. We're going as students. These beings have achieved something we thought was impossible. We need to approach them with respect and humility." Commander Veltar agreed. "Standard first contact protocols emphasize peaceful intentions and mutual benefit. But in this case, we might be the ones who need help understanding their world." The night before the contact mission, Dr. Zeromoth couldn't sleep. She floated in her quarters, looking out at the planet through her window. It looked so beautiful from space, blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds. But she knew that beneath that peaceful appearance was a world that could kill her in seconds. "What kind of beings are you?" she whispered to herself, watching the planet slowly rotate. "How did you learn to live in hell and make it look like heaven?" The next morning, the contact team gathered in the shuttle bay. Dr. Zeromoth, Commander Veltar, and 4 other specialists climbed into their environmental suits. The suits were so bulky and heavy that they could barely move. Each suit had its own life support system, radiation shielding, and gravity compensators. As they prepared to launch the shuttle, Dr. Yenthara made one final discovery. "Commander," she called out urgently, "I'm detecting new radio signals. It looks like they've noticed our ship." "What are they saying?" Veltar asked. Dr. Yenthara looked confused as she read the translation. They're asking if we need help. They want to know if our ship is in distress." The contact team looked at each other in amazement. These mysterious beings had detected a ship from an unknown alien civilization, and their first response was to offer assistance. It was perhaps the most hopeful sign they had discovered yet. "Well," Dr. Zeromoth said as she sealed her helmet, "I guess it's time to find out who they really are." Commander Veltar stood in the observation deck of the Galactic Confederation ship Harmony's Edge, staring at the star charts floating in front of him. His blue skin had turned a deeper shade, which happened when he was thinking hard about something important. The ship had been traveling through the outer rim of the galaxy for 3 months, looking for new worlds that might support life. The ship was huge, almost the size of a small city. It carried scientists, diplomats, and explorers from 12 different alien species. All of them worked together to find new planets that could become homes for the growing population of the Confederation. Space was getting crowded near the center of the galaxy, and they needed to expand. Veltar had been doing this job for 20 years. He had found 17 habitable planets during his career. Each discovery made him proud, knowing that millions of beings would eventually call those worlds home. But today felt different. Today the scanners had picked up something that made no sense at all. "Commander," called out Dr. Nixara from her station. She was a small green-skinned scientist from the Kepler system. Her forearms moved quickly over the control panels as data streamed across multiple screens. "You need to see this right away." Veltar walked over to her station, his heavy boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The ship was quiet except for the low hum of the engines and the soft beeping of various machines. Most of the crew was asleep since it was the middle of the night cycle. "What did you find?" Veltar asked, looking at the screens full of numbers and charts. Dr. Nixara pointed to a display showing a planet in the distance. The planet looked normal from far away, blue and green with white clouds swirling around it. But the numbers next to the image told a very different story. "This planet is registering as a Class 15 Deathworld," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "That should be impossible." Veltar felt his heart skip a beat. He had two hearts, like all members of his species, and both of them started beating faster. A Class 15 Deathworld was the worst possible rating. It meant the planet was so dangerous that even the strongest, most protected beings would die within minutes of landing there. The classification system went from Class 1, which meant perfect for life, all the way up to Class 15, which meant certain death. Veltar had only seen 3 Class 15 worlds in his entire career, and all of them had been completely empty. No life at all. Not even bacteria. "Show me the details," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. Dr. Nixara brought up more screens. The information made Veltar's skin turn even darker. The planet's gravity was more than 3 times what most species could handle. The atmosphere was full of poisonous gases that would eat through most metals. The weather included acid storms that could destroy entire cities. The surface was covered with active volcanoes and radiation levels that would kill most known life forms in hours. "This world should be completely dead," Dr. Nixara said. "Nothing could possibly live there." But then she showed him the most shocking part. The scanners were detecting artificial structures on the surface. Cities, roads, what looked like farms. Signs of advanced technology. Someone was not just living on this nightmare world, they were building a civilization. "That's impossible," Veltar whispered. "Our best environmental suits can only work on a Class 12 world for a few hours. How could anyone survive on a Class 15? Dr. Nixara adjusted the scanners, trying to get a clearer picture. The planet was still far away, but their instruments were very advanced. They could detect things from millions of miles away. "Commander, there's more," she said. "I'm picking up radio signals from the planet." Veltar leaned closer to the screens. Radio signals meant intelligent life. But intelligent life on a Class 15 Deathworld was like finding ice in the middle of a star. It simply could not happen. "Play the signals," he ordered. Strange sounds filled the observation deck. They were clearly artificial, not natural sounds from the planet. The signals had patterns and rhythms that suggested language, music, even what sounded like entertainment broadcasts. Whatever was down there was not just surviving. They seemed to be living normal, peaceful lives. "How many life signs are you detecting?" Veltar asked. Dr. Nixara worked at her controls for several minutes. When she looked up, her face was pale with shock. "Millions," she said quietly. "I'm detecting millions of individual life forms spread across the planet's surface. They have major population centers on every continent. They've even built structures in the oceans." Veltar had to sit down. In his 20 years of exploration, he had never encountered anything like this. The Confederation's best scientists had spent hundreds of years studying what made planets suitable for life. They had rules and limits that everyone believed were absolute. A Class 15 world was beyond those limits. It was scientifically impossible for complex life to exist there. "Could our instruments be wrong?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "I've run diagnostics 3 times, Dr. Nixara replied. Everything is working perfectly. The readings are accurate." Veltar stood up and began pacing around the observation deck. He needed to think about what to do next. This discovery would change everything the Confederation knew about life in the universe. If beings could live on Class 15 worlds, then there might be life on thousands of planets they had written off as impossible. "Wake up the senior staff," he ordered. "All department heads need to see this immediately." As Dr. Nixara sent out the wake-up calls, Veltar continued staring at the planet on the screen. It looked so peaceful from a distance. The blue oceans and green lands reminded him of many habitable worlds he had discovered. But he knew that beneath those peaceful-looking clouds was a hell that would kill him and his entire crew in minutes. Within an hour, the observation deck was full of senior officers and scientists. Representatives from all 12 species stood around the displays, looking at the impossible data. Some were excited. Others were frightened. All of them were confused. "This changes everything we know about life," said Dr. Korthanan, the ship's chief biologist. He was a tall, thin being with gray skin and large black eyes. "If life can exist in these conditions, we need to reconsider our entire understanding of biology. The question is," said Security Chief Zarlon, "what kind of beings could survive on such a world?" They would have to be incredibly strong and resistant to damage. If they're hostile, Veltar understood the concern. Beings that could live on a Class 15 Deathworld would be far tougher than anyone in the Confederation. If they were warlike, they could pose a serious threat to galactic peace. We need to make contact, Veltar decided. But carefully. We'll follow standard first contact protocols, but with extra security measures. Sir, Dr. Nixara spoke up. I'm detecting something else. The signals from the planet include mathematical sequences and what appears to be scientific data. They seem to be sharing knowledge freely with each other. Their communications don't sound military or aggressive. This was slightly reassuring, but Veltar knew they needed to be prepared for anything. He ordered the ship to approach the planet slowly and carefully. They would study these mysterious beings from a safe distance before attempting any direct contact. As the Harmony's Edge began its approach to the impossible world, every member of the crew felt the weight of history. They were about to meet beings that had achieved something the Confederation thought was impossible. Whatever they found on that planet would reshape the galaxy's understanding of life itself. The planet grew larger on their screens as they moved closer. Soon they would learn the truth about the beings who had made their home in hell and somehow turned it into heaven. The shuttle Scientific Hope shook violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Commander Veltar gripped his seat tightly, watching the warning lights flash red all around the small cabin. His environmental suit was so heavy that he could barely move, but it was the only thing keeping him alive as they descended toward the impossible world below. Hull integrity at 80% and falling, reported Dr. Kethamora from the pilot's seat. His rock-like fingers moved carefully over the controls, trying to keep the shuttle stable. The atmospheric acid is eating through our protective coating faster than expected. Dr. Ziramoth floated beside her seat, held in place by magnetic restraints. Even with her gravity control abilities, the planet's crushing force made it hard for her to move normally. How much time do we have? She asked. Maybe 2 hours before the hull fails completely, Dr. Kethmora replied. Less if we encounter one of those electromagnetic storms. Through the thick windows, they could see the planet's surface growing larger below them. What looked peaceful from space was revealed to be a nightmare landscape. Massive volcanoes spewed lava and toxic gases into the air. Lightning storms crackled with energy that could power entire cities. The oceans churned with waves that were hundreds of feet tall. There, Dr. Yenthara pointed with one of her 8 arms. I can see the settlement our scanners detected. In the distance, they could make out structures that rose from the hostile landscape like flowers growing in poisoned soil. The buildings were tall and graceful, seeming to bend and sway with the planet's violent weather rather than fighting against it. Roads connected various structures, and they could see movement that suggested a large population. It's beautiful, whispered Dr. Vishatai, her water-breathing apparatus making soft, bubbling sounds. How do they build such elegant structures in these conditions? As they approached the settlement, their sensors picked up more details. The city was much larger than it had appeared from orbit. Thousands of structures spread across the landscape, some built directly over lava flows, others standing in areas where acid rain fell constantly. Gardens and parks were visible between the buildings, somehow thriving in soil that should have been completely sterile. Landing site coming up, Dr. Kethamora announced. I'm setting us down in what appears to be a clear area near the city center. The shuttle touched down with a heavy thud, the landing gear sinking slightly into ground that steamed with toxic vapors. Immediately, alarms began sounding as the external sensors detected the full horror of their environment. Atmospheric composition is 93% sulfur compounds, with traces of chlorine gas and other corrosives, reported Dr. Ziramoth, reading from her instruments. Radiation levels are 12 times what most species can survive. Surface temperature is fluctuating between boiling and freezing every few minutes as the weather changes. Commander Veltar checked his environmental suit's systems one more time. The bulky armor around his body hummed with power as it worked to keep him alive. Remember, we have 3 hours maximum before our suits fail. Stay close together and don't take any unnecessary risks. As they prepared to open the shuttle's airlock, Dr. Yenthara detected movement on her sensors. Something's approaching our position, she said, her voice tense with excitement and fear. Multiple contacts moving toward us from the settlement. Through the shuttle's reinforced windows, they could see figures moving across the hostile landscape. At first, the contact team couldn't believe what they were seeing. The figures appeared to be walking upright like many intelligent species. But they weren't wearing any environmental protection that the aliens could recognize. "That's impossible," Dr. Zeromoth said, adjusting her sensors to get a clearer view. "The radiation alone should kill any carbon-based life form in minutes." But as the figures came closer, it became clear that these were indeed living beings moving freely in conditions that would instantly kill most known species. They walked with easy confidence across ground that was cracked and steaming. Some appeared to be wearing simple clothing that looked like basic fabric rather than protective gear. "Are our sensors malfunctioning?" Commander Veltar asked. "They can't really be unprotected out there." Dr. Kethamora ran diagnostics on all their equipment. "Everything is working perfectly. What we're seeing is real." One of the approaching figures stopped directly in front of their shuttle. It was clearly a bipedal being, roughly the same size as most Confederation species, but moving with an ease that suggested perfect adaptation to the harsh environment. The being raised what appeared to be a hand and made a gesture that seemed friendly. Then impossibly, the being walked up to the shuttle's hull and knocked on it with what looked like a bare fist. The sound rang through the cabin like a bell. "Did that creature just knock on our door?" Dr. Vishatai asked in amazement. The being outside seemed to be examining their shuttle with curiosity rather than fear. It walked around the small ship, apparently studying its design and construction. Other figures approached and joined the first one, and soon there was a small group gathered around the scientific hope. Dr. Yanthara was working frantically with her translation equipment. "I'm picking up vocalizations," she reported. "They're communicating with each other in the same language we detected from orbit." The sounds coming through their external microphones were unlike anything the contact team had heard before. The language had musical qualities with tones that rose and fell in complex patterns, but there was also something else. The voices sounded calm and friendly, not threatening or aggressive. "Can you translate anything?" Commander Veltar asked. "Working on it," Dr. Yanthara replied, her 8 arms moving quickly over her controls. "The mathematical concepts I decoded earlier are helping, but this is a very complex language system." Meanwhile, the beings outside seemed to be having a discussion about the shuttle. One of them pointed to areas where the acid atmosphere was eating through the hull. Another gestured toward the settlement, as if suggesting something. Then one of the beings did something that shocked the contact team completely. It walked directly up to the shuttle's main window and peered inside, pressing what appeared to be a face against the transparent metal. The being's features were visible now. It had 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth arranged in a pattern similar to several known species. But its skin appeared to be completely unprotected from the deadly environment. The being seemed to notice the aliens inside the shuttle and made gestures that clearly indicated friendliness. It waved, pointed to itself, and then pointed toward the settlement. The meaning was obvious even without translation. It was inviting them to come with it. "Translation coming through," Dr. Yanthara announced suddenly. Her equipment had finally processed enough of the language to provide basic understanding. The voice that came through their speakers was warm and concerned. "Are you folks okay in there? Your ship looks pretty damaged. The acid rain is eating through your hull pretty badly." The contact team sat in stunned silence. The being outside wasn't threatening them or demanding explanations. It was worried about their safety. Another voice joined the first one. "We should get them to shelter before their ship fails completely. That hull won't last much longer in this weather." "This weather?" Dr. Zeromoth repeated in amazement. "They're talking about conditions that could kill us in seconds like it's just a minor inconvenience." The first being spoke again, apparently addressing the shuttle directly. "Hello in there. My name is Hyunwoo from the Settlement Coordination Committee. We saw you coming down and figured you might need help. Can you understand us?" Commander Veltar looked at his team. They had prepared for many possible scenarios during first contact, but they had never imagined that the alien beings would be the ones offering rescue assistance. "What do we do?" Dr. Vishatai asked. Dr. Zeromoth checked her instruments again. The shuttle's hull was failing faster than expected. They had maybe 90 minutes before it would collapse completely. "We don't have much choice," she said. "Our ship is dying and they're offering help." "But how can they help us?" Dr. Kethmora asked. "They don't appear to have any technology that could protect us from this environment." Outside, more beings had gathered around the shuttle. Some appeared to be children, standing casually in conditions that would vaporize most known life forms. They were looking at the alien ship with the same curiosity that Confederation children might show when seeing an interesting animal. Hull integrity down to 60%, Dr. Kethmora reported. We need to make a decision quickly. Commander Veltar took a deep breath, tasting the recycled air in his environmental suit. Open a communication channel, he ordered. Let's talk to them. The emergency shelter was unlike anything the contact team had ever seen. From the outside, it looked like a simple building made of basic materials, but inside it was a miracle of engineering that had saved their lives. The filtered atmosphere was breathable, the gravity was reduced to manageable levels, and the temperature stayed constant. Dr. Zira Moth floated near the ceiling, finally able to use her natural abilities again. Her environmental suit lay in a corner, its power cells completely drained from fighting the hostile conditions outside. This is remarkable, she said, studying the shelter's walls. How do you create stable conditions using such simple materials? Taemin, the human engineer who had guided them to safety, smiled as he checked the shelter's systems. He was a young man with dark hair and kind eyes, wearing clothes that looked like they were made from ordinary fabric. It's really just basic physics, he said modestly. We learned early that fighting Earth's environment was pointless, so we designed our technology to work with it instead. Commander Veltar sat heavily in a chair designed for alien visitors. His body ached from the stress of their escape from the dying shuttle. Outside the shelter's windows, he could see the acid storm that would have killed them all. Lightning crackled with energy that could power a small city, and rain fell that could dissolve most known metals. Yet Taemin talked about it like it was just another day. Work with it? Dr. Vishtai asked. She was breathing filtered water from the shelter's life support system, finally comfortable for the first time since landing. How do you work with an environment that should kill you? Taemin gestured toward a wall display that showed cutaway views of human buildings. See, instead of trying to keep the acid rain out, we channel it into collection systems. The acid is actually very useful for industrial processes, and the lightning provides most of our electrical power. Dr. Kethmora examined the construction materials with his geological expertise. His rock-like body was naturally tough, but even he couldn't survive Earth's surface conditions. These building materials are just basic ceramics and metal alloys, he said in amazement. Nothing exotic or expensive. How do they resist the corrosion? Oh, they don't resist it, Taemin explained cheerfully. They're designed to be slowly dissolved and replaced. We treat our buildings like living things that grow and change over time. When the acid eats away part of a structure, it triggers automatic repair systems that rebuild the damaged areas. The concept was revolutionary. Every other species in the galaxy built structures to last forever, using the strongest materials available. Humans had learned to build things that were meant to be constantly destroyed and renewed. This is incredible, Dr. Ziramoth said. You've created a completely different approach to engineering. Can you show us more of your settlement? Taemin looked pleased by their interest. Of course, though I should warn you, our protective suits are designed for human physiology. They might not work perfectly for your species. He led them to a storage area filled with what he called storm suits. To the aliens, they looked like simple clothing with some basic equipment attached, nothing like the massive powered environmental suits the Confederation used. These are your emergency protection suits? Dr. Yanthara asked, examining one with her 8 arms. They're so light and simple. They don't need to be complicated, Taemin replied. They're just meant to keep you comfortable in slightly rough weather. The suits filter the air, regulate temperature, and provide some protection from radiation. For short trips outside, they work fine. The aliens put on the human-made suits with great care. Even with the protection, they knew they were trusting their lives to technology they didn't understand. But when they stepped outside the shelter, something amazing happened. They didn't die. The storm suits worked perfectly. The filtered air was breathable, the temperature stayed comfortable, and the radiation levels dropped to safe ranges. For the first time since landing, the contact team could walk freely on Earth's surface. This is impossible, Dr. Ziramoth whispered as they walked through the settlement. Around them, human children played in parks while acid rain fell gently on protective canopies. The rain was collected in beautiful fountains that somehow turned the deadly liquid into decorative water features. Taemin led them past buildings that bent and swayed in the wind like living trees. Our architecture is based on biological principles, he explained. We studied how Earth's life forms adapt to harsh conditions and applied those lessons to our construction. They passed a school where human children were having outdoor classes. The teacher, a woman named Dal Nim, was explaining something about chemistry while pointing to the acid rain falling around them. Today we're studying how sulfuric compounds interact with different minerals, Dal Nim was saying to her students. Watch how the rain changes color when it touches the iron in our playground equipment. One of the human children, a girl who looked about 10 years old, accidentally bumped into Dr. Kethamora as she ran to get a better view of the chemical reaction. Despite his rock-like body and superior size, the impact sent him stumbling backward. Oh no, Dal Nim hurried over. I'm so sorry about that. Kids don't know their own strength yet. Are you hurt? Dr. Kethamora stared at the child in amazement. His species was naturally tough and strong, adapted to high-gravity worlds. But a human child had casually knocked him off balance without even trying. She's stronger than I am, he said quietly to Dr. Ziramoth. A child just overpowered me without effort. Dr. Ziramoth was running medical scans on the humans around them. The data was fascinating and terrifying. Their bone density is 3 times normal for carbon-based life, she reported. Muscle fibers are incredibly efficient. Their cardiovascular system could pump liquid metal. And their immune system, it's fighting off toxins that would kill most species instantly. Taemin overheard her and looked confused. Toxins? You mean the air? We don't usually think of our atmosphere as toxic. It's just what we breathe. They continued walking through the settlement, and every new sight challenged the aliens' understanding of life itself. They saw humans working outdoors in conditions that required the visitors to wear protective suits. They watched children swimming in pools filled with water that had been naturally acidified by the rain. How long do your people live? Commander Veltar asked as they observed a group of elderly humans tending a garden in the toxic soil. About the same as most intelligent species, we think, Taemin replied. Maybe 90 to 100 of your standard years, though we don't have anyone else to compare to, so we're not sure if that's normal. Dr. Vishatai was shocked. You live normal lifespans despite the constant environmental stress? What stress? Taemin asked genuinely. This is just how we live. We don't feel stressed by our environment anymore. Then you feel stressed by breathing. They visited a hospital where human doctors were treating patients with medical techniques that seemed impossible. Dr. Zira Moth watched a surgeon perform an operation without any of the sterile environments that galactic medicine required. Don't you worry about infection? She asked the head doctor, a woman named Minji. From what? Minji replied. Our immune systems handle most problems automatically. We really only need medical help for serious injuries or genetic conditions. The aliens learned that humans rarely got sick from environmental factors. Their bodies simply adapted to whatever threats they encountered. Diseases that would devastate other species were minor inconveniences to humans. As the day continued, they visited workshops where humans created technology from simple materials. They saw artists making beautiful sculptures from metal that had been corroded by the acid rain. They watched engineers designing new buildings that could flex and bend with the planet's constant seismic activity. Your entire civilization is based on adaptation, Dr. Ziramoth observed as they rested in a cafe that served food grown in the toxic soil. Other species try to control their environment. You've learned to change with yours? Taemin nodded thoughtfully. We had to. Earth doesn't give us much choice. But honestly, we can't imagine living any other way. The idea of a world where nothing ever changes sounds kind of boring. As the sun set through the acid clouds, painting the sky in colors that would be toxic on any other world, the contact team realized they weren't just meeting another species. They were discovering a completely different way of thinking about life itself. Tomorrow, Taemin said as he showed them to guest quarters in the shelter, we'll take you to see some of our other settlements. Wait until you see what we've built in the deep ocean trenches. Commander Veltar activated the external communication system with shaking hands. The shuttle's hull groaned around them as the acid atmosphere continued eating through their protective coating. Red warning lights flashed constantly, telling them that their ship was dying. This is Commander Veltar of the Galactic Confederation vessel Scientific Hope, he said into the microphone. Can you understand us? The response came immediately through their speakers. The voice was clear and friendly with no trace of fear or hostility. We understand you perfectly, Commander. This is Hyunwoo. We're very glad you can talk to us. Your ship doesn't look good. The acid is getting through your hull pretty fast. Dr. Ziramoth leaned forward, studying her sensors as they focused on the being called Hyunwoo. What she saw made her hearts race with excitement and terror. The readings were impossible, but they were definitely real. "Commander," she whispered urgently, "my scans show carbon-based life. DNA structures similar to 12 known species. But the cellular adaptations, they shouldn't be possible." Outside the shuttle, Hyunwoo seemed to be talking with the other beings gathered around their ship. Through the translation system, the contact team could hear fragments of their conversation. "How long do you think their ship will last?" one voice asked. "Maybe an hour," Hyunwoo replied. "Look at how the acid is eating through that metal. It's not designed for our atmosphere." "Poor things," said another voice, clearly female. "They must be terrified in there." Dr. Vishatai bubbled in amazement. "They're worried about us. Beings who can survive in this hell are concerned for our safety." Hyunwoo spoke to the shuttle again. "Commander Veltar, we need to get you and your crew to shelter soon. Our weather service says an acid storm is coming in about 30 minutes. Your ship won't survive it." "Weather service?" Dr. Yanthara repeated in shock. "They have weather prediction for acid storms?" Commander Veltar tried to process what he was hearing. These beings not only lived on this death world, but they had organized society, weather prediction, and emergency services. "Hyunwoo," he said carefully, "what do you call your people? What species are you?" "We're humans," Hyunwoo replied as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And this is our world, Earth. We're honored to meet people from other planets. We've wondered for a long time if we were alone in the universe." The word humans meant nothing to any species in the Confederation. Database. Dr. Ziramoth quickly ran searches through every known civilization but found no matches. These humans were completely unknown to galactic science. "Hyunwoo," Dr. Ziramoth said, taking over the communication. "I'm Dr. Ziramoth, a scientist. Can you tell me how your people survive in these conditions? Our instruments show that your environment should be lethal to carbon-based life." There was a pause, and the humans outside seemed to be discussing something among themselves. When Hyunwoo spoke again, he sounded confused. "Lethal? I'm sorry, Dr. Ziramoth, but I don't understand. These are just normal conditions for us. This is how Earth has always been." "But the radiation level," Dr. Ziramoth began. "Oh, you mean the background energy?" Hyunwoo interrupted. "Yes, it's a bit high today. We might get some nice aurora displays tonight." Another voice joined the conversation. It was the female voice they had heard earlier, speaking with the same casual tone. "Hi there, I'm Bora. I work with the city's environmental management team. Are you having trouble with our atmosphere? We can set up a clean room for you if you need different air to breathe." Dr. Keth Mora almost dropped his controls. "They want to create a clean room for us. They think we're the ones with special needs." Bora continued talking, her voice warm and helpful. "We've dealt with off-world visitors before. Well, actually, no, you're our first. But we've prepared for this possibility. Our scientists have theories about what other worlds might be like." "What kind of theories?" Dr. Ziramoth asked, fascinated despite their dangerous situation. "Well," Bora said thoughtfully, "we figure other planets might be less energetic than Earth. Maybe with thinner atmospheres, lower radiation, weaker gravity. Some of our scientists think there might even be worlds where the weather is really calm and boring." The contact team stared at each other in amazement. These humans thought Earth was normal, and other worlds were the strange, unusual places. "Bora," Commander Veltar said carefully, "what do you mean by really calm and boring weather?" "You know," she replied, "places where it doesn't rain acid very often, where the lightning storms are weak, where the ground doesn't shake much. Our weather models suggest there might be planets where the surface temperature stays the same for days at a time." Dr. Vishatai made a choking sound in her water-breathing apparatus. "They think stable weather is strange." Meanwhile, the shuttle's condition was getting worse. Dr. Keth Mora reported that hull integrity was down to 40%. "We need to make a decision soon," he said. Hyunwoo seemed to sense their urgency. "Commander, we really need to get you to safety." "I can see your ship is failing. We have a secure facility nearby where you can be protected from the environment while we figure out how to help you." "How?" Dr. Ziramoth asked. "How can you protect us from conditions that you yourselves are exposed to?" "Oh, we have emergency shelters designed for exactly this kind of situation," Hyunwoo explained. "They're built to simulate the conditions we think other worlds might have. Lower gravity, filtered atmosphere, stable temperature. Our engineers designed them based on our theories about what off-world visitors might need. Dr. Yanthara was working frantically with her translation equipment, trying to understand everything she was hearing. They built facilities for alien visitors before they ever met any aliens, she reported. They predicted that other species might need different environmental conditions. The implications were staggering. These humans had not only adapted to survive on an impossible world, but they had also developed enough scientific understanding to predict what other life forms might need. They had prepared for first contact based on pure scientific theory. How many of these shelters do you have? Commander Veltar asked. Every major settlement has at least one, Bora replied. We figured if we ever met other people from space, they might come down at different locations. We wanted to be prepared to help them wherever they landed. A new voice joined the conversation, speaking with authority and experience. This is Mayor Wu Jin of New Seoul Settlement. Commander Veltar, we're honored by your visit to our world. Our emergency teams are standing by to assist you and your crew. Please allow us to help you reach safety. Dr. Ziramoth checked her readings again. The humans outside showed no signs of distress or discomfort. They were standing casually in conditions that were rapidly killing the alien shuttle, discussing rescue plans as if they were talking about the weather. Actually, Dr. Ziramoth realized they were talking about the weather. To them, acid storms and radiation were just normal weather patterns to plan around. Hull integrity at 30%, Dr. Kethmora announced. We have maybe 20 minutes before complete failure. Through their windows, they could see more humans arriving. Some were carrying what appeared to be equipment, though it looked nothing like the advanced technology the Confederation would use for environmental protection. The humans moved quickly and efficiently, clearly implementing some kind of emergency plan. Commander, Yunwu said urgently, the storm front is moving faster than expected. We need to evacuate you now. Can your people walk in our environment if we provide protection? What kind of protection? Veltar asked. We have emergency suits designed for extreme weather. They should keep you safe during the short trip to our shelter. Dr. Ziramoth almost laughed. These humans were offering to protect aliens in environmental suits designed for weather that was already far beyond lethal by Confederation standards. Commander, she said quietly, our suits will fail before we reach any shelter. But their extreme weather suits might actually work. They're designed for conditions that are worse than what we're experiencing. Commander Veltar made his decision. They had no choice. Their shuttle was dying, and these impossible humans were their only hope for survival. Hyunwoo, he said, we accept your help. Please guide us to safety. Outside, the humans moved into action with practiced efficiency, preparing to rescue visitors from another world. The next morning brought what humans called gentle weather. To the contact team, it looked like a moderate disaster. Acid fog drifted through the settlement, while electromagnetic pulses flickered in the atmosphere. The ground trembled with small earthquakes that happened every few minutes. But the humans walked around normally, going about their daily business as if nothing unusual was happening. Dr. Ziramoth floated beside Tae-min as he led them toward the settlement's central meeting hall. Her storm suit was working perfectly, but she still couldn't believe she was breathing air that should have dissolved her lungs. Tae-min, she said, can you tell us more about human history? How long have your people lived on Earth? Tae-min looked thoughtful as they walked past a playground where children were climbing on equipment made from crystallized acid formations. As far as we know, humans have always been here. Our oldest historical records go back about 10,000 years, and they all describe Earth as being pretty much the same as it is now. You evolved here? Dr. Kethmora asked in amazement. Your species developed on this world? Where else would we have developed? Tae-min replied, genuinely confused by the question. This is our home. Our bodies are perfectly adapted to Earth's conditions because we grew up with them. Commander Veltar stopped walking. The implications of what Tae-min was saying hit him like a physical blow. You mean humans didn't come from somewhere else? You didn't colonize this planet? Colonize it from where? Tae-min laughed. Until yesterday, we thought we were the only intelligent life in the universe. We had no idea there were other worlds with people on them. Dr. Ziramoth's minds raced as she processed this information. Every other species in the Confederation had evolved on relatively peaceful worlds, and then spread to other planets using technology. But humans had evolved on a Class 15 Deathworld, and never left because they didn't know anything else existed. They reached the meeting hall where dozens of humans had gathered to meet the alien visitors. The hall was beautiful, with walls that seemed to be made from compressed volcanic glass and a ceiling that let in the natural light filtering through the acid clouds. An elderly man with gray hair and kind eyes stood up to greet them. "Welcome to New Seoul," he said warmly. "I'm Woo-jin, the settlement coordinator. We're all very excited to learn about your people and your worlds." The humans in the hall looked at the aliens with curiosity and friendship, not fear. Children sat next to their parents, pointing excitedly at the strange visitors. Teenagers whispered to each other about what other planets might be like. Adults asked polite questions about the aliens' home worlds. "Tell us about your planets," said a young woman named So Young, who worked as a communications engineer. "Are they really different from Earth?" Dr. Vishestai stepped forward, her water-breathing apparatus bubbling softly. "Our worlds are calmer," she said carefully. "Most inhabited planets have stable weather, breathable atmospheres, and gentle gravity." The humans looked fascinated by this description. "Stable weather?" asked an older woman. "You mean the temperature stays the same all the time?" "More or less," Commander Veltar replied. "Rain is usually just water. Lightning is rare and not very powerful. Earthquakes happen maybe once or twice a year, if at all." A human child raised her hand like she was in school. "Do you get bored?" she asked innocently. "It sounds like nothing exciting ever happens on your planets." Dr. Yenthara translated the question for her colleagues, and they all looked stunned. These humans thought stable, peaceful conditions were boring. Woo-jin gestured for everyone to sit down. "Please tell us about your confederation. How many worlds are there? How many different kinds of people?" Dr. Zeromoth activated a holographic display that showed a map of known space. "There are about 40,000 inhabited worlds in the Confederation," she explained. "We represent over 300 different species, all working together for peace and prosperity." The humans gasped in wonder. 40,000 worlds, So Young repeated. "And we never knew any of you existed. How did you all find each other?" Taemin asked. "Did you travel between stars to meet?" "Most species developed space travel after they had explored and settled their entire home planet," Commander Veltar explained. "Once we had the technology, we naturally wanted to find other worlds to live on. But humans never developed space travel," Woo-jin said. "We never needed to. Earth provides everything we need." This statement revealed something profound about human psychology. Other species had developed technology to escape their planetary limitations. Humans had developed technology to thrive within them. "What about exploration?" Dr. Kethamora asked. "Didn't you want to see what was beyond your world?" "Oh, we're very interested in exploration," said a scientist named Jung-soo who had been listening quietly. "We've explored every part of Earth, from the deepest ocean trenches to the most active volcanic regions. There are human settlements in places your people probably couldn't even visit safely." Dr. Zeromoth leaned forward with interest. "What kind of places?" Jung-soo smiled proudly. "We have underwater cities in ocean trenches where the pressure would crush most materials. Mountain settlements built directly in volcanic craters, desert communities where the sand is actually crystallized acid. Each environment taught us new ways to adapt and build." "How many settlements are there?" Commander Veltar asked. "About 50 major ones," So Young replied, "plus hundreds of smaller research stations and outposts. We estimate there are maybe 2 billion humans on Earth right now." The number was staggering. 2 billion people living successfully on a world that should have been completely uninhabitable. "What do you need from other worlds?" Dr. Vishatai asked. "What resources or technologies are you missing?" The humans looked at each other with confused expressions. "Missing?" Woo-jin said slowly. "We're not really missing anything. Earth provides all the materials we need. Our technology works well for our lifestyle. We have art, science, education, entertainment. What else would we need?" This was perhaps the most shocking revelation yet. Every other species in the galaxy needed resources from multiple worlds to maintain their civilization. Humans had built a complete advanced society, using only what their deadly planet provided. "But surely there are things that would make your lives easier," Dr. Zeromoth pressed. "Better technology? More comfortable living conditions?" Jung-soo shrugged. "More comfortable than what?" "We're already comfortable. Our homes are safe and pleasant. Our technology does what we need it to do. We have good food, clean water, and healthy lives. What more comfort could we want?" "Don't you want to travel to other worlds?" Dr. Yenthara asked. Now that we know they exist, yes, we're very curious, Taman admitted. But we'd want to come back to Earth afterward. This is our home. Commander Veltar realized that first contact with humans was unlike anything the Confederation had ever experienced. Usually, new species were eager to join galactic civilization because it offered them better technology, safer worlds, and expanded opportunities. But humans already had everything they needed. What can we offer you? He asked directly. Wu Jin smiled warmly. Friendship, he said simply. Knowledge about the universe. Stories about your peoples and your worlds. The chance to learn that we're not alone. And what can you offer us? Dr. Ziramoth asked, though she already suspected the answer would surprise her. Well, So Young said thoughtfully, if you ever need to explore dangerous worlds, we could help. There are probably places in your galaxy that are too hostile for your people, but would be perfectly comfortable for us. Like what? Commander Veltar asked. Youngsu pulled up some data on his simple computer. Based on what you've told us about your limitations, we could probably live on any world with gravity up to 5 times galactic standard, atmospheric pressures up to 10 times normal, and radiation levels that would be lethal to most species. Temperature extremes don't bother us much. Toxic atmospheres are just a matter of having the right equipment. The contact team stared at the data. Hyung-soo had just described hundreds of worlds that the Confederation had written off as completely uninhabitable. There are thousands of such worlds, Dr. Ziramoth said quietly. Really? Taemin looked excited. We'd love to see them someday. It would be interesting to experience different kinds of challenging environments. As the meeting continued, the aliens began to understand that they hadn't just discovered another species. They had found the solution to one of the galaxy's biggest problems: how to explore and utilize the vast number of worlds that were too dangerous for normal settlement. But more importantly, they had discovered a people who had achieved something no other species had managed: perfect contentment with their place in the universe. 3 weeks had passed since the contact team first landed on Earth. During that time, they had visited 7 different human settlements and witnessed wonders that challenged everything. They thought they knew about life in the universe. Now, as they prepared to return to their ship in orbit, the full impact of their discovery was becoming clear. The farewell ceremony took place in New Seoul's Central Plaza, a beautiful space where fountains of collected acid rain created rainbow patterns in the toxic air. Hundreds of humans had gathered to say goodbye to their alien visitors. Children held drawings they had made of the visitors' homeworlds. Adults brought gifts made from Earth's unique materials: jewelry crafted from crystallized volcanic glass, sculptures carved from metal that had been shaped by acid storms, and books written on paper made from plants that thrived in poisonous soil. Commander Veltar stood before the assembled crowd, wearing his storm suit and feeling emotions he had never experienced before. In 3 weeks, these humans had completely changed his understanding of what was possible. People of Earth, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the translation system, we came here expecting to find something impossible. Instead, we found something miraculous. The crowd listened quietly, their faces showing the same warmth and kindness that had marked every interaction with the aliens. Wu Jin, the settlement coordinator, stepped forward with a smile. Commander Veltar, Dr. Ziramoth and all your people, he said, you have given us the greatest gift imaginable, the knowledge that we are not alone in the universe. For that, we will be forever grateful. Dr. Ziramoth floated slightly above the crowd, her scientific mind still struggling to process everything she had learned. Wu Jin, she said, our scientists will spend years trying to understand how your people accomplish what you do so easily. You have shown us that life is far more adaptable than we ever imagined. A young girl named Arin raised her hand to speak. She was maybe 8 years old, with bright eyes and a curious expression. Dr. Ziramoth, she asked, when you go back to space, will you tell everyone about us? Of course we will, Dr. Ziramoth replied gently. But what would you like us to tell them? Arin thought carefully before answering. Tell them that we're friendly, and that if they ever need help with scary planets, we're good at living in scary places. The simplicity of her offer made several aliens emotional. This child was casually volunteering her entire species to help with the galaxy's most dangerous exploration missions. Taemin stepped forward with a datapad in his hands. We've prepared some information for your scientists, he said. Basic principles of our engineering, medicine, and environmental adaptation techniques. We hope it will be useful. Dr. Kethamora accepted the datapad with reverence. This information could revolutionize galactic technology, he said. Are you sure you want to share it freely? Why wouldn't we? Taman looked confused. Knowledge should be shared. That's how everyone benefits. Commander Veltar realized that humans didn't think in terms of technological secrets or competitive advantages. They approached knowledge the same way they approach their environment, with openness and adaptation rather than control and hoarding. So Young, the communications engineer, had been working with Dr. Yenthara to establish permanent contact between Earth and the Confederation. We've set up quantum communication relays, she reported. Earth will be able to talk with your people across any distance. What will you do with this connection? Dr. Vishatai asked. Learn, So Young replied simply. We want to know about your worlds, your cultures, your science. And we want to share what we know too. Young-Soo, the scientist, had been discussing research collaboration with the alien team. There are so many questions we want to explore together, he said excitedly. Your people have studied thousands of different worlds. We've only studied one, but we've studied it very deeply. Together we could understand so much more about how life adapts to different conditions. As the ceremony continued, human children performed traditional songs and dances. The melodies were beautiful, with harmonies that somehow worked perfectly despite the background sounds of acid rain and distant thunder. The aliens realized that humans had even learned to make music that incorporated their world's natural rhythms. A boy named Jin Ho, who was about 10 years old, approached Commander Veltar with a carefully wrapped package. This is for you, he said shyly. It's a piece of Earth to remember us by. Inside the package was a small crystal that had grown naturally in one of Earth's acid caves. It was beautiful, with colors that shifted and changed in the light. But more importantly, it was completely stable. The crystal would remain unchanged for thousands of years, carrying the memory of their visit. Thank you. Jinho, Commander Veltar said, accepting the gift with great care. I will treasure this always. As the time came to leave, Dr. Ziramoth gathered her team for one final observation. Before we go, she said to the assembled humans, I need to ask you something important. Are you happy here? Living on this world that our people consider impossibly dangerous? The humans looked at each other and began to laugh, not mockingly but with genuine joy. Happy? Wu Jin said. Dr. Ziramoth, we can't imagine being happy anywhere else. Earth is our home. It's beautiful, challenging, and full of wonders. Why would we want to live anywhere else? But don't you ever wish for an easier life? Dr. Kethmore asked. Easier how? Aaron asked innocently. Life is supposed to be interesting. If everything was always the same and nothing ever happened, that would be boring. The contact team realized that humans didn't see Earth's dangers as hardships to be endured. They saw them as features that made life exciting and meaningful. The constant challenges had made humans stronger, more adaptable, and more appreciative of what they had. As they prepared to board the shuttle that would take them back to orbit, the humans gathered around them one last time. Promise us something, Taman said seriously. When your people decide whether to welcome us into your confederation, remember that we don't need rescuing. We don't need easier lives or safer worlds. We're offering partnership, not asking for charity. We'll remember, Commander Veltar promised. But I think you should know. It's not whether we'll welcome you. It's whether you'll accept us as worthy partners. The shuttle ride to orbit was quiet. Each member of the contact team was lost in thought, trying to process the implications of what they had discovered. When they reached the Harmony's edge, they found that word of their discovery had already reached the Confederation Council. Admiral Kester, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Confederation fleet, was waiting for them. Report, she ordered as soon as they came aboard. Dr. Ziramoth activated a holographic display that showed everything they had learned about humans and Earth. Admiral, she said, we have discovered a species that treats Class 15 Deathworlds as paradise. They are stronger, more adaptable, and more resilient than any known life form. They have achieved technological advancement without depleting their world's resources. They offer friendship and assistance without asking for anything in return. Admiral Kesetar studied the data for a long time. What are your recommendations? Commander Veltar stepped forward. Immediate diplomatic priority status. Full membership in the Confederation, with special recognition as exploration specialists for hostile environments. And Admiral, he paused, thinking of Jin-Ho and Aaron and all the other human children who had casually offered to help with the galaxy's most dangerous missions. Yes, Commander? When we inevitably encounter threats that could destroy our worlds, hostile aliens, dangerous phenomena, impossible environments, we'll want them on our side. 6 months later, Earth became the newest member of the Galactic Confederation. Humans began traveling to other worlds, not as refugees or colonists, but as specialists who could go places no one else could survive. They explored gas giants, surveyed active star systems, and established research stations in regions that had been written off as completely inaccessible. But every human who left Earth eventually came home. Because no matter how many wonders they discovered in the galaxy, nothing compared to the deadly beautiful, impossible world that had made them who they were. And in playgrounds across Earth, human children continued to play in acid rain and laugh at lightning, dreaming of the day they would see other worlds and show the galaxy what humans could do.